Welcome back to Facts News. You're here with Eric Moore. It's been a while since I made a video. It's been about 3 or 4 months, but I feel now's the time. It's a new year. Got some new, fresh ideas for you. Today I'm going to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, since it is King Day. I'm going to talk about his dream as it relates to back then as opposed to now, some of the differences and some of the similarities. Let me not waste any more time. Let's get right to it. Today is Monday, January 16th, 2012. The world is celebrating the posthumous 83rd birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. People today will look upon the impact that Dr. King had and analyze the progress of the dream he spoke of more than 40 years ago. Dr. King is most famously known for leading the struggle for civil rights on behalf of African Americans in the mid 20th century. In the succeeding years after his death in April 1968, much progress has been made in the lives of African Americans. Many blacks climbed out of the ranks of poverty and into the middle class. Many have become heads of prestigious companies, and others have been elected to important political offices. The culmination of that advancement was the election of the first African American president of the United States, Barack Obama, in November of 2008. Dr. King will be pleased with certain aspects of his dream realized, but he will be disappointed at the sight of several other issues. He will be appalled at the lack of black male-led nuclear families. He will be upset that as of 2012, more African American men are incarcerated than were enslaved in 1850. He would also be astonished by the fact that 400 Americans control more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans combined. What is often forgotten about Dr. King was his fierce struggle for economic equality for all people. The push for civil rights for blacks is not what got Dr. King killed. His fierce opposition to Vietnam and his willingness to speak truth to power is what got him assassinated on April 4th, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee. He realized then that the country was heading in a direction of a true oligarchy, with wealth concentrated within the hands of a small group of individuals. In my mind, his ability to inspire people to peek beyond the iron curtain of crony capitalism upset the rich ruling class of America. At the root of racism, militarism, and crony capitalism is economic power and social oppression. Many things have changed since 1968, but much remains the same in terms of social stratification and economic inequality. It's not so much about black and white as it was in the time of Dr. King. Now it's about green paper with the faces of dead presidents and deceased historical contributors. People are now seen as objects to take advantage of as opposed to equal-footed children of God. This method of thought by the powers that be has turned both the American dream and Dr. King's dream into a 21st century nightmare. We currently live in a world that's become a place where if you have money, you will live, and if you do not, you will die. If you have money, your children will have an opportunity for a world-class education, and if you do not, they will be subject to crumbling schools surrounded by crime and populated with underpaid and underappreciated teachers and staff members. A world where your monetary political contribution has more influence than your vote. A place where millions would rather use taxpayer funds to destroy Arab nations than to rebuild the infrastructure of inner city America. My friends, Dr. King will feel that there is much work left to be done to realize the fruition of his dream. The Occupy Wall Street protests in the fall of 2011 were a good start. This energy must be sustained and channeled into a concentrated effort to effect change at the ballot box and within the corporate suites of those who wield the economic power within this nation. Having a black president is no good if he is rendered impotent by the lack of cooperation by Republicans hell-bent on doing the bidding of their corporate masters at the expense of the poor and middle class. Democrats are not angels within the same breath. They push through weak legislation that aims to look out for the best interests of the people, but is often limited in its scope and great in its protection of corporate America. The former is heartless in its attempt to increase the gap between the haves and have-nots, and the latter is spineless in standing up for their mantras of looking out for hard-working middle class and lower class Americans. There needs to be a viable third party that does the will of the people and is free from corporate money and influence. That is an argument for another day, however. The truth is, this country works best when people at the bottom rungs of the economic ladder are not sprawled out across the basement of poverty. Nearly 146.4 million Americans are classified as in poverty or as low-income individuals, according to the U.S. Census. This must change for the dream of Dr. King to become a reality. It would take a collective effort of concerned individuals, progressive government actions, corporations with a conscience, and churches that care more about doing the will of God rather than the wishes of men. This is not an overnight process and will take time to hash out. The proverbial ball must begin to roll in 2012 because millions of individuals and the future of our democracy is in peril. This movement does not necessarily need a single leader as the civil rights movement did in the days of Dr. King. This is due to the fact that, as in the case of Dr. King, when leaders die, often the fulfillment of their dreams die with them. This is why there must be a collective effort drawn across racial, economic, and political lines. This will ensure that if they kill one of us, there will be millions more of us to carry the dream forward. The time has come to fight ignorance with intellect and choose books over bombs. Let's keep Dr. King's dream alive and dream even better dreams for our future. It is time for the revolution to begin. And unlike Gil Scott-Heron's classic song, it will be both televised and webcasted as well. God bless you. Hope you enjoy this work and the further works that will be following it. Have a great day and be of service to someone else. Goodbye.